So talk to me about preaching. I think, many of our viewers want to know, how do you prepare a sermon? How does Lance Watson prepare a sermon?
Oh, Lord. Okay. Let's come at it like this. First of all, I have a love affair with preaching. Mm-hmm. At this stage of my life, nothing in my life has been with me longer than preaching, because I started so young. Right. I believe preaching can change the world. Not just any preaching, though. Okay, because some of what is labeled preaching, I wouldn't call preaching. And that's just me and maybe my limitations, okay? But when I go about the task, I always try to approach it first with prayer, because I want to speak what I believe in and am convicted that God is leading me to speak. And so I try to bathe the task in prayer. Pray before I prepare. Pray while I'm preparing. Pray once I'm done preparing. And then pray before I present. If this ain't it, then give me in the moment what it is, okay? But sermons for me can come from anywhere. And that may be part of the legacy of Fred Sampson, because everything preached to Doc.
Yes, you did.
All the time. And so sometimes I'll start with the text and it'll arise out of my devotional life. Sometimes it starts with an idea. Sometimes it starts with an experience, because I have the quadrilateral too. I'm trying to balance reason and experience, scripture and tradition, and figure out which comes first. And it's shifted during the course of my ministry, because initially in those early churches, their theology was fundamentally evangelical, and in some cases fundamentalists and literalists, right? And so I was a part of that tradition where it's not just solo scriptoria, it is nothing else matters, If it ain't written, it ain't real, and that type of thing. And so my quadrilateral has shifted over time.
So let me, for the audience, say this is the Wesleyan quadrilateral.
Yes.
That the Wesley brothers put together. It's reason, tradition, scripture, and experience. So just so that the audience knows.
Yes. And those four sources inform our theology, right? And so in the beginning, I was more fundamentalist, dogmatic, literalist. And that shifted over time. So now I'll get a sermonic idea from just about anywhere. I am a hopeless serial preacher and have been so for 25 of the 38 years that I've been at St. Paul's. So I tend to get an idea for a series of messages. Okay. And I think it's valuable for a number of reasons. One is people don't come to church every Sunday, so they don't hear you every week. So doing a solo message, while it may be what you feel led to do, there's a high chance that a majority of the people who attend your church are not going to hear it because they're not there that week. Right. But a series of sermons gives you the opportunity to develop a theme, an idea, a thought over a number of weeks. Yeah. And so I'm hopelessly committed to that. Yeah. So I start with prayer, then I get the idea and I try and crystallize it in my mind. What is it that you are going after? If I had to name my preaching style, I'm trying to do artistic persuasion. Because if you listen to my messages over time, I'm always driving people to do something. I'm trying to persuade you. And the art comes through the use of language, through the use of image, through the use of metaphor. So I start with the idea or the scripture. I then, of course, go to exegesis of the text, and I'm trying to make sure that I clearly understand in its context what it was the text was trying to communicate to the original audience. Yes. Then I build bridges in my notes from that audience to my audience, which is where the exegetical process is so critical, because you can't say what it means until you say what it did mean, you know. And after I have the exegesis, I'll usually create some type of outline. On my pieces of paper, it really doesn't look like number 1, number 2, number 3. What I am fond of is drawing maps. Because in my head, I see myself as taking you on a journey.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I want to point out some stuff that ain't a part of the main destination, but I'd be like, look at that rose bush. Okay, let's keep going, you know, and that type of thing. You know, so I have a lot of those, you know, did you notice that butterfly, you know, and that type of thing. And it really may not be related thematically to the main flow of the message, but it makes the journey beautiful.
Yes.
You know, and that for me is too part of Doc's legacy in my life, because he was very artistic in terms of his preaching form, you know. So I'll create a map, and if I showed it to you like on a piece of paper, you would literally see an arrow where I'm drawing, oh, here, over there, you know. And then when I'm editing, I'll be like, okay, this belongs to 1A, this belongs to 1B, you know, and that type of thing. And I'll move stuff around, and I'll write a first draft. Now, I am a manuscript preacher, straight up, no holes, no bar. I own it. I've done some of all types of preaching. I mean, I remember one time after hearing Jasper Williams preach, I tried to preach no manuscript, no Bible, no nothing, just straight from memory, right? And it was at a youth service for White Rock Baptist Church in Detroit. Now, why do I remember that so well, right? I got up, and it was a nightmare, right? And so the pastor was very kind. He waited till we got back in the office, and he said, young man, I suggest you never do that again.